take the time and space to give yourself a break. Here you'll find some love, music, laughter, and above all, she'll dare to tell the truth. And so come to Granny's place and give your spirit a big boost.
Welcome to Granny's Place, a haven for love, entertainment, and uncommon sense. I'm Sweet Baby James, and I'm here to introduce you to Granny Rocks, and also to our ongoing theme, which is you ask the questions and Granny provides the answers. First, I'd like to introduce you to Granny Rocks. That's another name for Beth Green, and she's an intuitively guided counselor who's been doing this for some 38 years, has a lot of experience. And she's been a long-time social activist and the author of 6 books about human behavior. So I think she knows something about human behavior.
I hope so.
She has unusual insights into our issues, personal and social, as well as a special warmth, which helps us to look more honestly at ourselves. Plus, whatever the question, Granny uses music and humor to deliver a message that has universal applicability and addresses the heart of the matter. So even if you haven't submitted a question for this given show, you may very well discover Granny's comments to other viewers' questions and their answers to them, answers that you don't even know you had the questions for. Be aware that Granny answers all the questions in the order she receives them. So, get yours in as soon as possible if you want to get your question answered by Granny. And so now, here's Granny!
Well, guys, welcome to Granny's Place. You may be wondering why we have that long-winded introduction. Well, the reason is because some people don't know who I am and are wondering why they should listen to me. Now, I think they should listen to me only because I make sense, because who cares how many credentials I have if I don't have anything to say. But anyway, this is the way it is. People want to know. So we're going to be putting this in the introduction every time, and then people will say, oh my God, she's so excited.
She must know something.
She must know something, yes.
I've got to ask her a question.
I hope so. And I hope you do ask us questions. We are looking for questions. We have certainly enough questions for today, but get your questions in because we're running low on questions, and I'll be able to answer them sooner rather than later.
Very good, very good. First question is from Anonymous. Hi, how do I get my art? It's been buried so long, I want it back.
Don't you find that kind of an odd kind of a question? How do I get my art?
That's been buried.
How do I get to my art that's been buried? Because, what's interesting about the question is that the person didn't say, he, she, it, didn't say, how do I get my art? I set it aside 30 years ago and I don't know how to get back to it. Or I really have never been any good, but I want to encourage myself to do it anyway. But the way he, she, it asked the question is like, it's been buried. So the question is, did you bury it or did somebody else?
Good question. Did you bury it? How did it get buried?
Well, that is exactly the point. I mean, we have to start there, right? Because if we're going to find it, we have to find out who buried it. For example, I mean, this is the most ridiculous thing I'm going to say all day, but all night. But I hope that you enjoy it, which is that if you buried it, you know exactly where it is. You know, it's like the dog with the bone, right? The dog buries it, although, you know, when you have an elderly dog, he or she may no longer remember where he buried the bone. But anyway, if you buried it, you know where it is. But if somebody else buried it, it's a little harder to find. Now, that is really silly sounding, isn't it?
But it makes sense.
Yeah, in some kind of an abstract way.
If you buried it, you can retrieve it. If somebody else repressed you or blocked you or said you're no good and you gave up,
it's a little harder.
Buried deeper, you know.
It's a little bit harder. I agree. Of course, it's not that you can't find it, but that it is a little bit harder. I thank you. One person understood me. I really appreciate that. So that is the question that we have to start with. Did somebody else bury it? And you've already started talking about how that happens. Oh, your parents really wanted you to be, a doctor, and you came out with your art, and they said, well, that's fine for fun, for play, but not serious. I mean, you can't support a family on art, so you better just forget about it. Or they just may have a prejudice against art, or they may have thought your art stank. And for whatever reason, maybe they were right, maybe they were totally wrong. It doesn't matter. But the thing is, there may have been a prejudice against art in the family, right? Yeah. Or there may have been a prejudice against you in the family. Let's disempower Mabel. That's you. Or Matt. Or Brunhilde. This person really loves art. Let's just undermine them. Like, the other kids don't like you because you're really good. And so they're, this is sissy. This is ridiculous. This is no good. Something, you have to say something negative. And so all of that may have impacted you. Now, you may not even realize that impacted you. That's where you don't know where the bone was buried, right? Now, let's say you buried it. Why? Right? Why did you bury it? Did you have the same prejudices? See, there is often a connection between you burying it and everybody else burying it. See, because you may have internalized the message that you were no good, like you said, or that it's not important, or it has no value, and that other things are way more important. Having babies, or going shopping, or supporting the family, or going drag racing, or drag racing? That's okay. So, you may have internalized all that, and then you said, what I'm doing has no value, so I'm just going to bury it. I don't really care about it. There are more important things. So that is a way that other people burying it and you burying it could be coinciding, or you may have buried it for another reason. For example, supposing you're a woman and you had a husband who was threatened by your talent as an artiste, and you could just feel it, and then you don't even know why you did it, but you just kind of started to do less and less and less, and he never said to you, I think art is ridiculous, it's a hoax, it's a fraud, but he gives you these subliminal messages. I'm moving my pedal, if you're wondering what I'm doing here. He might have given you subliminal messages like, well, where's dinner? Hello? And he comes home and you've got your tunic on and it's splotched with all kinds of colors and very obvious what you've been doing. And it's, where's dinner? I'm hungry. Or the kids are dirty. And you haven't taken so-and-so to school or whatever it is. It could go the other way around. I mean, it could be a woman with man, right? But so you may have buried it because somebody didn't want you to be an artist, or they didn't want you to take time away from taking care of them, or your kids may have had the same attitude, or you may just be totally insecure and you're afraid to bring out your art that people will see who you are inside. So whoever you are, get going, unburying it.
Very good. Okay, then.
Well, maybe I should say, you want to ask me how to do that?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Well, it's not easy, is it? First, you have to answer the question of who buried it. And then there are two ways to answer that question. So I just want to, I know I've been spending a lot of time on this question, but so many people have this issue, right? About anything. It could be about science, it could be about anything else. So how do you unbury it is first you figure out how it got buried, and then you stand up to that. Mm-hmm. It's like, if on the inside it's some inner voice that says, you're no good, you're no good, you're no good, and if everything you do is no good, well, then you have to start working on the new you're no good, and everything you do is no good. If it's like the oppression of a mate, you have to stand up to that mate and say, I'm terribly sorry, I don't even have to be good, I just want to do this, and it's really too bad, and what's your problem? So there's stuff like that, So standing up to that inner voice. And And so it could be like a psychological resolution where you just do a redo. We call it a redo. And instead of acquiescing, you see yourself go back in time to when you saw yourself burying your art, because ultimately you are the one who buried it. Even if the other people had impacted you, you're the one who took that message and ran with it and went underground, right?
Yeah.
So get over your judgments about yourself. So then the second way to address it is just to do it. And usually the two of them together really works. So get yourself a crayon and paper and sit on the floor like you're 4 years old and start having fun. You don't have to start out with being Leonardo or Michelangelo or whatever it is. Just do something simple and fun. Enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it, and resurrect it.
All right. There we are. The next question is from Anonymous. Let's see. Hi, Granny. I recently found out that my husband had been emotionally unfaithful, possibly physically too, and I kicked him out twice. Since then, I have let him manipulate my heart into 2 attempts at reconciliation, only to be dumped by him.
Dumped by him? You mean he came back to you and then he left?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Twice. My kids and friends all agree that he is a narcissist. My question is, why don't I have enough self-love to stick to my first choice of booting him out of my life for good? Granny?
Well, that is so painful. Oh, that is really a painful situation. So you're asking a very good question. Why don't you have the self-love to do it? But what strikes me is that there may be a prior question. Not to say that that isn't an extremely important question you're raising, but maybe there's a prior question, which is, do you have unfinished business with him? And that's why you keep getting hooked back into it. I mean, you could say, well, he's a this, and he's a that, and she's a that. This is a husband. Right, so this is a woman. Or I'm assuming it's a woman. It could be a man with a man. But, you see, you may feel unready to let him go for some reason. Now, what could that reason be? One of the reasons could be what you've already said. You don't have enough self-love to take care of you. Or you've had, modeling from other women, which is that you stand under your man or whatever it is. There could be lots of reasons like that. But supposing you have a different kind of unfinished business with him, like he triggers a certain reaction in you, and you are just trapped by that reaction. Not just with him, but with everybody. And that would mean that this may not even have anything to do with him, but you would want to do something about that pattern. So in that case, you could embrace the situation and say, wow, I'm noticing this about myself. I seem to get caught up in this kind of relationship. I wonder why I do it. Like, is he the first man who has ever been rejecting or cruel to you? So probably not, right? Because you even asked about the self-love piece. But there's another kind of unfinished business, which was maybe there was a problem in the relationship that neither of you ever dealt with, and you don't feel free to dump him or to throw him out, or to be more, compassionate, to ask him to leave because you feel like you haven't done everything you could to make this relationship work. Now, I am not saying that that is or is not true. I'm saying that's another reason that we can get stuck, right? So that's really important to take a look at that whole issue. Are you, in fact, feeling like there was something else that you should have done? Now, maybe there wasn't. Maybe you feel there was something else you should have done, but there really wasn't anything you should have done. Or maybe there was something else that you should have done. I'm hoping that you and your husband get some counseling and find out what's gone on in the relationship. I'm going to give you a for example. Some women ignore their husbands when they have children. I'm not saying this is you. I don't even know that you have kids. I can't remember if she said anything about that.
Yeah, she has children.
Oh, she has children. Okay. So you may have dumped him yourself when you had kids because you felt safer with them, because it was easier for them to be intimate with them, because you felt a kind of responsibility that you learned from your mother, for example. So you may feel like you had not been caring enough towards him, and
or vice versa, since they considered him a narcissist.
well, I don't like to throw around parapsychology terms, like that.
Right.
They're calling him a narcissist. Maybe he is. Maybe he's just a self-centered, a-hole. But maybe he's a hurt person and doesn't know how to ask for what he needs, and he's emotionally unfaithful. Why? You must be asking yourself the question, why did he do this? Right? A lot of times we just get angry and we don't ask the question why. Why? What was he looking for that he wasn't getting? Is it a fantasy that he's looking for and that's the problem? Or was he looking for a feeling of love or acceptance that he wasn't feeling? So it's really important that you actually, if you can, get some help. And you could say, if he asks you to come back again, you say, okay, under one condition, I want to go see Granny Rocks or somebody else and find out what was going on in our relationship. When did it go bad? When did it go south? Was it before we even got married? Was it after, when we had kids, when we retired, when I got a job? What happened? When did it get bad? And then see if there is something that the two of you can work out together. So that's, to me, the most productive way to deal with this, since you still feel hooked in, is to really ask yourself, why did this happen? See if you can learn something from it. Even if he is a narcissist and the end of the relationship is like right here, it doesn't mean that you can't learn something about relating that you can use for the next relationship. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I hope that I answered your question. I know you said about self-love, but part of self-love is self-awareness. And as you get clearer about what your part was in that relationship, you can forgive yourself. And sometimes that's all you need in order to let him go, is to forgive yourself for something that you may have done, which is the unfinished business that's hanging you up and that won't let you tell him, there's the door, wish him luck, and go on with your life.
Very good. Thank you, Granny.
You're welcome.
That
wasn't your question, was it?
No. This next question is from Anonymous. I crave connection, and yet I seem to be misaligned with others close to me. What I want and am creating is to be enough to have workability, to be in integrity, and for love to last. It's been years of healing and turning things over to higher power. The only constant connect is God. I'm a social animal and I want to carry my own weight in relationships. How can I get a healing on this issue to create a solid love I want in my life?
You're asking such a difficult question, Anonymous. When I say it's a difficult question, you're assuming it's all you so far. And maybe it is, but maybe it isn't. You have to meet the right one. And maybe you haven't met the right one yet. So you could do everything in the world to prepare yourself for a relationship. And if there isn't anybody there to partner you, you're still going to end up alone. So that's why this is such a hard question, because it's not all up to you. Now, I applaud you for everything that you've been doing. It sounds like you've been doing an amazing job of trying to work on yourself, turning things over to a higher power. Maybe you're even in a 12-step program, because that's the kind of language that I hear there a lot. And also, you're doing a lot of healing. And that's incredible. But what if he hasn't come along yet? I'm going to tell you a little story. I didn't meet sweet baby James until I was, 65? 65. going on 66, I think.
Yes, you were.
And he was
A year older.
a year older. And we didn't meet until then. And I tried, and I tried, and I tried, and I tried, and I turned it over, and I took it back, and I turned it over, and I tried healing, and I did everything I could. And now the good news is that all the healing that I did actually helped me a lot becoming a better person, so it wasn't all wasted. I don't want to judge my experience by whether or not I manifested a partner, right? So it was all good. More self-awareness, more understanding, learning how to relate more and more and more. But if this lug hadn't come along, I would still be crying in my water, because that's all I ever drink. So, it's just like that, and that is the painful thing. So all I can suggest to you is you celebrate everything that you have done. Do not judge yourself by whether or not the guy has come along, and have hope that if there is someone there for you, that person is working as hard on themselves to prepare them to have a relationship with you as that you have been working on yourself. It's not in your hands, and it's hard in life to recognize, that things are not totally in our hands. So the truth is that people get together frequently when they aren't ready and they don't have any healing, and they're desperately glomming onto each other because they're lonely or because of this or that, you know what I mean? Or and then it's hell. It's hell. So it's possible that your partner is out there in the wrong relationship, going through therapy, getting sober, moving to your part of the country, but just don't give up. So all I can say is God bless you, and keep working on yourself, because it's never wasted, and keep the faith that if there is somebody, that they will eventually materialize and you will be more ready. And in addition to that, when I say it's never wasted, relating is relating. Everything that you are learning and all the healing that you're doing about relating to people is going to help you relate to everyone. Mm-hmm. And what you need in the meantime, and always, not just in the meantime, is love in your life, right? Mm-hmm. And even though you may want that special love, keep working on getting all kinds of love. Like, walk out the door and smile at everybody and feel the love that's available to you. Mm-hmm. So that's the last thing that I want to suggest, is that you take advantage of all the love that's out there to hold you until maybe a miracle will happen, and I sure hope so.
Thank you, Granny. Okay, here's a question from another anonymous. I love a bipolar person, and it brings on a lot of trouble I don't want. How can I heal this?
Well, isn't that interesting? Did you hear that from Anonymous? Anonymous said, how can I heal this? How can you heal the pain that is caused by a bipolar, the person being bipolar, right? Yeah. You can't heal that. You can live with it. You can learn to understand it. You can choose wisely, but you cannot heal it. So I think that's very interesting. So let me tell you, first of all, that I was in a relationship with a person who suffers from bipolar disorder. So you don't have to tell me. I understand that people who are suffering inside can cause a lot of suffering for others, right? If your partner is depressed, or if the partner is anxious, or the person is addicted, or whatever it is, everything is going to impact you when you're in a relationship with somebody. If the person is just anxious, oh my God, I can't sleep at night because Sweet Baby James is anxious, right? So it's very, very difficult. Being in a relationship brings you in the same tent, and the other person's emotional state will impact you. Or if in a bipolar manic moment, that person goes out and spends the whole bank account, which could happen, right? Then you're going to be suffering the consequences of that. So what do? Do you say, oh, well, I'm not going to have a relationship with that person? Well, here's what I have to say about that. The bipolar disorder, like men, and I'm assuming that this person has been diagnosed and you're not just deciding, right? And I'm not, a psychiatrist, and that's not my field, right? I'm not going to try to heal anybody. But everybody has to take some accountability for their illness, whatever it is, if they possibly can. So, is this person really making a wholehearted effort to deal with their own symptoms? Now, the person that I was with tried medication and none of it worked. So it seemed to make him worse, and he couldn't be blamed for that. However, let me tell you, we found that if he ate according an intuited food, I intuit food plans sometimes. I don't do it anymore. I used to. So I gave him a food plan, and it was miraculous. Like in 2 weeks, he was like a different person when he was eating as I was, I guided him, but he wouldn't do it. So now you could say, well, he couldn't do it because of his bipolar disorder or his ADD or whatever it was, or his self-destructiveness or whatever it is. But see, that really gets you, right? When you see that there is a solution that is essentially free, that is available, that person could do, and they don't, it hurts even more. So that you're suffering. Now, is this just a lack of accountability on this person's part? So what I'm saying to you is, as you go through this relationship, you need to be looking at whether that person is doing everything they can to help themselves, understanding that they are challenged, and I understand that. So that's one thing. Is that person doing what they can? Or is that person just like venting? Like one of the symptoms of bipolar, of mania, is anger. Anger. Well, is that person just enjoying being angry? Because are they also like getting off on, they feel so lousy about themselves that they like to put other people down? It's a defense mechanism, but it's still very hurtful. So how much is that person willing to change? How much is that person willing to give up being manic? How much is that person willing to give up that high? It's like, oh, I'm out to the world, I'm better than everybody, I'm a genius, I'm all of that stuff, right? So there's another piece of this, is right, believe me, I'm saying this totally compassionately. I hope you hear that. So is the person willing to do what they can? Are they willing to give up part of the illness in order to help with the rest of the illness? Are they doing everything? Are they abusing you? That's the next question, right?
And if they are doing all of that, but they're still having trouble because of this person's disorder, then what does she do? Well,
you see, she has to make that evaluation of whether that relationship is giving her or him enough. We called it a she, but we really don't know that this is a woman. Is that relationship giving you enough so that it's feeding you, so that you can say, mostly I feel loved, I feel taken care of. But if not, then you have to ask yourself a question. If this person isn't doing anything to help themselves, if this person is abusing you, which is the question I was getting to, is it your pattern to be with people who are abusive? And then you have to start asking yourself, what is your investment in this relationship? Is it really love? Is it pity? Is it liking to feel better than other people? What exactly are you punishing yourself for something? It's a very, very complicated question you're asking, Anonymous. So I'm suggesting that you have to look at the big picture. Is what is your part in this? Why are you with this person? Is it feeding your soul, or is it tearing you down? Are you addicted to abuse? Have you become downtrodden, or are you being nurtured? And that it's worth dealing with there, because, honey, everybody has disabilities. everybody is going to bring you grief, right? And you're going to bring you grief. And everybody brings themselves grief, right? So all those things have to be looked at and thought through very, very carefully. And on that basis, maybe you'll be able to get a clearer sense of what you should do. But as I said to you in the very beginning, you can't heal this issue. It's real, but you can have a successful relationship if you and your partner are working together to care for one another, and it feels nurturing to both of you. But if you've gotten into a role of being the victim or of being better than or always being abused, you better get some therapy or get some help or talk to a friend and see why you're doing it.
Yep.
So I think I have to stop.
Oh, yes, we are now out of time, Granny.
Yes. So, we have Granny's Kitchen right after the show, 15 minutes after the live show. So if you're watching this on Thursday, it's not going to be 15 minutes after the show, right? But right, 15 minutes after the live show, and there are instructions in the post about how to join us for a live discussion at Granny's Kitchen. It's a discussion that I lead. And then the video of that discussion goes on our YouTube channel, Granny Rocks TV. And I really would love for you to send in your questions because we'll have plenty of time next week.
Yeah, that's right. One
I
of the
know we have at
questions
least one question.
Yeah, that's been carried over is somebody who's dealing with a religion supporting being drawn upon by other people in her life to judge her about everything she does.
Oh.
And then she, I think it's she, is judging them for everything they do. So there's this huge problem of everybody judging everybody. So
That's grand. Well, thank you for. So that's one of the questions that we'll be dealing with next time. And by the way, if you hear snoring, that is not Sweet Baby James. That is our dog Mojo, who is sitting on the rug right here, snoring into the microphone. If you have to hear it, he's too old for us to, be mean to him. Oh. At no age is it proper
That's
to be.
right,
I didn't
that's
really
right.
be mean. I really meant like wake him up. That to me would be mean because he's so, he's old.
comfortable.
He is comfortable. I don't want to do that, but I would never be mean to an animal. So I might be mean to myself, but I'll be mean to an animal. So do send us in your questions. I hope that I helped the people who wrote in these questions. And I just love your honesty, and I appreciate it. And please keep those cards and letters coming, and come back next week. If you don't know how to send me a question, look at the post. It's a link. It's right up there.
That's right. Okay then. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.